Hello there, thanks for watching. I'm Sam and I'm in client services here. I moderate these weekly webinars for you. In just a minute, we'll be joined by one of our senior advisors. His name is Michael Corgiat. He's going to be covering which of your financial records you can keep and what you can toss. But before Michael comes on, I'd like to quickly remind you that although we work very closely with both active and retired clients and potential clients of General Mills, the retirement group is not affiliated nor endorsed whatsoever by General Mills. We are a completely independent group of financial advisors here. Please keep that in mind as you listen along with Michael today. After his presentation, I will rejoin him very quickly to ask him some of the questions that got entered into the Q&A chat throughout his presentation. If you find that you have a question, please feel free to ask away. It's completely anonymous and we try to answer as many questions as we can, time permitted. And throughout this video, if you happen to see some YouTube cards popping up on your screen, please feel free to click on those. They will guide you to several other pieces of content and resources that we offer you here. Some may be past webinar videos of 3M topics you may find of interest or concern, or even just a link to book an appointment with one of our advisors here at the retirement group. So take advantage of those. And without further ado, I'd like to now bring on our speaker, Michael Corgiat.
Hey, Sam. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. Today, again, as Sam said, we're going to talk about streamlining the keeping of your financial records, what's important or what we believe to be important, some of the things that you may believe to be important, or if they are to you, then that's what's important to you too. But what to keep, what not to keep, how to keep some of these documentations, this sort of thing. And then the other part of the presentation is going to be talking about securing your financial legacy, estate planning, and insurance planning, and we'll talk about a little bit there as well. So let's just go ahead and get started. Financial record keeping, the importance of staying organized. As I'm sure many of you are, just like me, you keep records for years, years, and years, and eventually you wind up filling file cabinet drawers full of bank statements and pay stubs and utility bills and all these sorts of things because you feel like they're all important. And it's all the paper documentation. Much of this stuff we can get electronically now, and I know I do, and I'm sure many of you do as well, but in some cases, you still like to get the paper copies. Brokerage account statements, 5, 10, 20 pages sometimes. Bank account statements can be 6, 8, 10 pages. So just in generally, it's very important to stay organized, and just in our opinion, what we believe that you should go ahead and hang on to. We'll talk a little more about the overview on some key documents, wills, trusts, and powers of attorney, and your tax returns. Some of the essential documents to keep, and the importance of hanging on to your tax records. Talk more about that. The modern banking tools that are available to all of us now online, which is great. And then the best way to organize those financial records. Important documents include your last will and testament, your powers of attorney, living trusts, powers of attorney, life insurance policies, just to name a few. But I also want to talk about copies of all of your legal identification documents, your social security card, passports, driver's license, all of your property records, the deeds to your home, timeshares, rental properties, the titles to your cars as well, at least keeping copies, both either paper copies or the originals in a safe place. Tax records, we'll talk more about that here in a bit. And what is the best way to store these things? Okay, well, as I said, a lot of us get the paper documentation and we stick it in a file cabinet, which is great. If you keep things organized, there's no problem with that. The only problem that I really believe that you have is that if you have, unfortunately, a fire in your home or your business where you keep a lot of this information and that fire destroys all of this, it'll be very difficult to get it all replaced. You'll be able to, but it'll take you a lot of time. So keeping paper documentation, again, is great. I would strongly recommend that you buy one or more fire safes. I know I own 3 or 4 of them, and keep what's really, really important in those fire safes. You can also scan all these documents to thumb drives, which you can keep in a fire safe as well, or up to the cloud, like a Dropbox or a Google Cloud account. Amazon offers them as well. So you can access them electronically if by chance they are all destroyed. And therefore you can print them back out again and get the important ones redone, whether you have to go to the local municipality or the local county seat or the state that you live in to get whatever it is done. So secure, locked up. I believe in fire safes, digital copies. Again, just to name a few things that I believe are very, very important. The importance of keeping tax records. Well, the rule of thumb is that you should keep at least the current year plus the previous 3 years tax returns. Now, I know I've got probably the last 10 or 15 years of tax returns, the actual paper returns, but I also keep them all scanned on a thumb drive and on a cloud source. Now, one of the rules of thumb, if you do file a tax return where you are taking a deduction for a loss, the IRS suggests that you keep that documentation for 7 years. So if you take a capital loss or the loss that you may have incurred on a piece of property, a car or home, whatever it might be, a deductible loss, you'll want to keep those records for longer. And I strongly recommend that obviously that you maintain all of the records that go into your tax return because especially you need to, if you're audited by the IRS, you're going to have to have the documentation to prove to them why you took certain deductions. They're not just going to accept handwritten notes. You got to have those statements and those check stubs and so on. So again, very, very important on tax documents. The modern banking tools, I tell you what, when online bill pay came about, I don't know how many years ago, I pretty much got rid of my checkbook. I set up everything online, and I'm sure most of you do that as well. You can control how your bills get paid and when they get paid, as well as having them paid on a regular basis. You could pull all this information up on your phone, see what your deposits and withdrawals and what checks have cleared, so on and so forth. Make deposits by just taking a photograph of a check that you've received, flipping it over and taking a picture of the back with your endorsement on it. It's just awesome. Your statements. Some people still like to get, again, the paper statements, but you can also get those electronically, save those PDFs in a file on your computer, again, a thumb drive, or up to the cloud. And all these automated tools help to file your tax returns and are much better for disaster preparedness. I'm a fan of the program called Quicken to keep track of all the expenses throughout the year. At the end of the year, I can print out a report, a very simple report, scan that and email that off to my accountant, and boom, he has everything he or she needs to do your tax returns versus going through a shoebox filled with receipts, which might take you hours, if not days, to get organized for your accountant or for yourself if you choose to do your own tax returns. And again, talking about organizing your financial paperwork, I mentioned, keeping things in files, keeping the files separate, property records here, bank records here, tax records here, using color-coded files is a good idea, red, green, blue, yellow, these sorts of things. Whatever works for you, keeping them again in a safe place is very important as well. And then going through these documents on a regular basis. I do it at the beginning of the year, every January. Start going through bills, getting a big old pile of things that I'm going to shred. And then that shredded paper goes into a bag or into the recycle bin, and I'm done with it. I know it's safe. I know I'm safe because when the documents are shredded, nobody can really get your account records. And that's very important. It's very inexpensive to buy a $30 or a $40 shredder to keep at home. And as you go along, during the year, you could shred your documents very easily, even if, versus waiting until the end of the year. Now we're going to switch gears and talk about securing your financial legacy, planning for the future, keeping all those important estate planning papers handy, communicating your wishes to your loved ones. And then again, we'll talk a little bit about creating a file system. But first, planning for your future. I think the most important thing about that is, do you have an estate plan set up? Do you have a will? Is that will current? That's a key. Is your will current? I know people who've got wills, but they're 20 and 30 years old. Or have you gotten yourself set up with a living trust? I personally am a huge fan of living trusts because they can do everything, much of which can't be done with a will. And I'll talk about that here in a second. One of the things you can keep with your living trust is a living will. Healthcare directive is what it's called. Simply stated, if you wind up incapacitated and you can no longer make decisions for yourself and you don't want to live on machines, a healthcare directive will state your wishes to the hospital and your loved ones. Listen, let me go after a period of time. Durable powers of attorney, as well as healthcare powers of attorney, are very important. Again, these things may be needed and you don't have these in a true simple will. Again, you could become disabled or incapacitated. Your spouse can make decisions, but it might entail a decision that requires both your signatures. Well, you're not of sound mind, so your spouse can't get your signature. Your spouse will have to go hire an attorney and then find a personal representative or be appointed your personal representative, depending on, again, what you believe is the most important and the best thing to be done for yourself. And if that's all spelled out in your trust, your spouse doesn't have to worry about it. And again, making sure you've got copies of all of that. And then advanced care planning or long-term care planning, nursing homes, these sorts of things. We're all going to get older, and many of you have probably got family members who may have gone into a retirement community just because, well, one, they want to, especially if their spouse is gone. They want to be around people of their own age and do things again that they were not doing any longer. And, some of us might wind up in some sort of skilled nursing home facility, whether it's just because we can't do a couple of the annual daily activities, the daily activities. So we do need a little bit of help. But what you want to have done with yourself, again, especially if you're incapacitated, you want to have all of this spelled out to your kids, to your spouse, to whomever you want to have take responsibility for your finances and your estate plan once this happens. So it's very important to let everyone know who's important to you in your life, whether it's your spouse or your children, if you don't have them, your best friend, whomever it might even be a trustee at a bank. But have all of that information shared with those people that are important to you. So it's all spelled out. No one has to go look something up or figure something out or go to the courthouse to have a document drafted to do the things that you want to have done because they may not be able to get it done the right way. I talked about a filing system. I think it's very important to keep it centralized in a safe place. Obviously, let someone know where you have all of this information. And these can talk about, credit cards, bank statements, checkbooks, all these sorts of things. Whatever you believe is going to be important to those that you love, you want to have them all, I like to say, in at least a bin somewhere, and that person or persons knows where that bin is. And if you do keep safes, someone needs to know where the keys are, what the combinations are. You could keep that information in the safe as well. Obviously, if you have an attorney that you trust, you can utilize them too. So that's very important as well. I have worked with people, older clients of mine who have not done some of these things, have not done estate plans. I've had to help their beneficiaries, probate their home, some of their bank accounts, these sorts of things. It's a pain and it's expensive. So estate planning is extremely important, and I strongly recommend it. Again, talk about your advanced care thoughts with your loved ones as well as your doctors. I know I've got a couple of doctors that I trust. And then review these plans and documents minimally on an annual basis or as often as you deem necessary. Don't let this go by for 3-5 years without keeping your plans up to date. And I've talked a little about the filing system as well. Just whatever works for you, color coding, chronological order, sort of things, labeling everything for easy retrieval. It's all very important. And then, the conclusion, the key strategies that you might have for financial record keeping, and take action and stay organized. All right. If you haven't done some of these things, get started on it. All right. Again, I personally like to review all these things after the first of the year. Ironically, I got my Social Security statement emailed to me today, printed it out and stuck it in my Social Security file. So again, ssa.gov if you weren't aware of it. Finally, I can't tell you how important it is to have an overall plan. Again, today we've been talking about financial records and your legacy plan. We do a tremendous amount of retirement planning for our clients. Let's get you to that point, and let's get you to a point to where you can enjoy it. So give us the opportunity to put together a retirement analysis for you. It's a complimentary service that we offer, and we'd be happy to do one. Why would you want to consider us here at the Retirement Group? We're a bunch of individuals who've been doing this for quite some time. I being one of those. We have offices all over the United States. We have a great deal of knowledge on all of your benefit programs, your 401ks, and your healthcare benefits. And again, take advantage of that complimentary financial analysis. Here you can schedule the QR code on the left to schedule a meeting with one of us, including myself. The QR code on the right goes to our LinkedIn page. Definitely go there. Follow us on LinkedIn. We keep all of our webinar schedules there. Our recordings are there as well as on our website. All you have to do is ask. You could send us an email and someone from our office will get back to you, or give us a call at 1-800-900-5867. And with all that said, I really do appreciate your time. I certainly hope some of this was helpful, and I'm going to go ahead and hand the meeting back to Sam and see if we've got any questions. Sam?
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for all of that information. Yeah, that's a lot of, I like that idea of Quicken. I think that's a really cool idea to keep track of all your expenses throughout the year. That sounds really good. I'd never really thought about that before, because
incredibly easy at the end of the year to print a report. If you just dedicate a little bit of time.
I mean, you could do it once a month and just put all your expenses in, right?
Exactly.
I have a Ziploc bag. I'm very ashamed to mention that.
A lot of people have shoe boxes. You have a Ziploc bag.
I have a Ziploc of everything from, yeah, it's really bad. Okay. Yes, let's answer a couple questions. We'll try to keep it short.
Okay.
This first one, how frequently should I update my will and other estate planning documents, and what events should trigger these updates?
That's a great question. As far as wills or trusts concerned, I mean, rules do change. If you've had them done and you still have a relationship with that attorney, you could certainly ask them. I would suggest every 3 to 5 years. But if things change in your life, you get married or you get divorced, you have another child or you adopt a child, or you lose a child, your wishes change, you have a falling out with a family member that was in your will and you no longer want to do something for them, or just as we grow older, okay, things change. So whatever's important with the changes, you want to update your will or your trust. But bottom line, I would strongly suggest 3 to 5 years maximum, okay, because it does cost money to visit with an attorney, but it is money well spent.
Definitely. It's definitely great to have all of that in place. Alrighty. Number 2, how do I know which money papers to keep and which to throw away, especially for taxes, and how long should I keep them? Which you answered over the course of this presentation, but just to recap.
Let's just summarize that. Again, tax returns, your current year, previous 3 years.
Mhm.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to keep the last 10 years and then destroy them. I know I probably got 20 years worth of tax returns. And I do keep fat files filled with all my receipts because, again, if I'm ever audited, I need that documentation to defend myself. Now,
Right.
I do destroy them after some time. Again, an audit won't go back more than 3 or 4 years. Again, it might be 7 years if you took a deduction for a loss. But as far as tax returns are concerned, that's what I would recommend. Financial documentation, bank statements, as long as you're comfortable, it can fill a file drawer pretty quickly. Brokerage account statements are a lot thicker. You have multiple accounts, you get them every month, so on and so forth. Again, you could fill a box fairly quickly. I know I like to keep the year-end statement. You could get all the activity online now. Charles Schwab is our custodian, and I know you can find all that stuff for a number of years, the life of your accounts. So you can do the same with your bank records, your property records. You can too, but you got to keep your title to your car handy, and you want the deed to your house handy as well. So,
Right.
and then what to get rid of. I mean, I save utility bills. I get rid of them at the end of the year. That's just me. I don't know why I save them, but I do. But I also do keep a spreadsheet in Quicken to track all of our monthly expenses, even down to what we're spending on food and, miss the cable bill, the phone bills, the water bill, these sorts of things. Again, once it's all documented and scanned and saved, get rid of it, shred it, burn it, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, everything, even utility bills now, everything's electronic. You
Yes,
can
it
go
is.
back. I don't know how far back you could go, but I'm sure you could go back pretty far if you needed to get record of all of those bills.
Yes.
Alrighty, Michael, thank you. I'm gonna do one more and then we can
Okay.
end for today. What's the best way to choose a durable power of attorney for healthcare and finances?
Well, the best way is first, you need to determine what's important. A durable power of attorney will give the person that you believe will do what you want. That's the most important to you. I think that's one of the hardest decisions to make, especially if you're by yourself now. Your spouse is gone, or you may not be married. You don't have any children, but you have built up an estate. All right. Is choosing someone that you can trust. Now, you find someone that you can trust, you let them know that, listen, I'm picking you to do this. Are you comfortable with it? And I've had this conversation about guardians with people before. Mom and dad, something happens to the both of them. What's going to happen to your children? You don't want them to become the ward of the state.
Right.
Your family will step in, but they'll have to legally fight for the kids. And you don't want that to happen. You don't want that to happen to your children either, especially if they're 3, 5, 3, and 1 year old. You just don't want that. You want to have it all spelled out. So finding your personal representative is the key. And then talking to an attorney and sharing your wishes, your goals and objectives, and they'll put together the right sort of power of attorney, whether it's durable power or healthcare or both. So.
All right, Michael, that was everything that we had to cover for today.
Great.
Thank you for all of that useful information and for all of those great ideas. Was there anything else you wanted to add before we go?
No, I really appreciate everyone's time. Give us a call, schedule an appointment. Won't
Yes,
cost you anything, but I
definitely.
do appreciate your time. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Michael.